address the crowd as he runs this.
All right, everyone. If I could have everybody's attention. I know that there's some live media reports going on, and I don't want to interrupt those. The red light is on. We are rolling. Welcome to the Tabulation Center. This has been quite an undertaking here since we started this process. Julie and I talked on Wednesday afternoon, and we decided that the results weren't moving very much from the 46% for each candidate. We decided we'd begin the process of contacting our vendor, our courier, began the process of going around the 2nd Congressional District, picking up election materials from 375 towns. We also were managing the overseas military ballots here in the central office, so we had that already in hand. We got the last of that in actually yesterday when we had Township 10's ballots delivered yesterday afternoon. Something around the order of 300,000 ballots. I don't know the exact number, but Julie could probably tell you the exact number of ballots cast. So what we've been doing for the last...
Once we get done this, I'll know exactly.
Yeah, when we get done, we'll know exactly. So the way this process has worked for people who have not had the opportunity to follow it, as we've been getting materials in, both the actual physical ballots that were cast in the towns that count their ballots by hand, and also the towns that use tabulators, we've retrieved their memory devices, and we've downloaded all these images of ballots into this system. This is a closed loop system. It is not hooked up to the internet in any way. Everything here has been as secure as we can make it. When we got hold of this facility back for the June primary, we had spent a bit of resources to get badge access and getting security cameras installed so that we could assure the public as much as possible that this was not a process that could be tampered with. So as we've gone through it last week, the crew that I've had, some of them are tucked into the shadows back there. And I know people are anxious for the result, but I think it's important to understand the incredible people that I get to work with every day. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Our folks from the Elections Division, we also have people here from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, from the State Archives, and also the Central Office, many of whom volunteered for this duty, and it's been under heavy scrutiny. This absolute forest of cameras has become part of our daily routine, and that's really good. It's a good thing, because this is the core of the value of this process is to be transparent and to be accountable, and so we welcome the scrutiny, and we try to answer all the questions. I have to commend both campaigns for the people they've sent here. They've asked good questions. They've been very good to us and very good to each other. And I think it really speaks very well to the people of the state of Maine exactly how this process has unfolded. We've also been party to some litigation that's been going on. Phyllis Gardner from the Attorney General's office has represented the state in that, and we want to thank the court for their rapid and thoughtful consideration of this case. For those of you who do not know, the temporary restraining order request was denied this morning, so we were able to proceed. And I think at this point, if I missed anything, Julie, at the high level, Julie Flynn is the Deputy Secretary of State for the Bureau of Corporations, Elections, and Commissions. And she can probably tell you a couple of details of what you're going to see when we push the buttons.
Okay. So
I'll go over and stand next to her so the microphone. I'm wired up like some sort of FBI informant here.
Well, I'm still recovering from knee replacements, so my left knee doesn't like to bend quite so much. So the first thing we're going to do, we finished scanning the last ballots at about 10 a.m. We wanted to give a time for people to get here, so we set for noon. But it took our scan ballot program about an hour and 20 minutes to save all the scanned ballot results onto a memory device. So the first thing we're going to do is take the memory device out of the high-speed scanner. So that represents all the ballots from the towns that were hand counted on election night and were brought here and scanned through the high-speed scanner. We're going to take the memory stick and put it into our election results program, which is on our closed loop system. And it'll take probably a few minutes, maybe 5-6 minutes, to acquire and create the cast vote records, which is what the ranked choice voting system needs in order to run the algorithm that has all the rules that say. If you skip one, you go and look at the second choice. If you skip two, your ballot is exhausted. All the things that are in law and rules about how ballots are counted in the ranked choice voting count are on our utility. So we will go ahead and do that now. And then while that is working, we'll have a couple of minutes. You can sing or...
Heidi Peckham is the Assistant Director of Elections, and our dedicated co-worker, who is on the front page of the Bangor Daily News and described as a worker, is Kathy Ranks, who works in my office. Couldn't live without her. So.
Melissa Packard, Director of Elections.
Yeah. Come on in so they can see you. These are the names you see in the press releases, people that do all this work. So. I'm acting now as a mic stand.
You do it well.
Just follow your hands.
Yeah, that's right. You have to be good for something.
One of the things, once we've acquired all the cast vote records, from the system, it will include all the cast vote records created from the ballots that we scanned, that we're now uploading into the system. And it will also take the cast vote records from the memory sticks we uploaded from the towns who use a tabulator, precinct scan tabulator at each polling place. So those will all be acquired and outputted into a series, we think of about 3 spreadsheets. The system has a limitation, the old Excel limitation, which is no more, but it will export a spreadsheet of 99,999 rows of cast vote records and 1 row, which is a header row. So we know we have 2, based on the sheer number of ballots we did, we know we'll have 2 spreadsheets with 99,999 rows, and we'll have a 3rd one which will have the remainder. And then we have some ballots. The military and the overseas voters do not vote on a ballot that can be scanned by the system. They vote on it's a proprietary system that was designed for us, a software system, and we scan those ballots with a group of what we call UOCAVA election officials. Kim Pettengill is our election warden, and then we had Democrats and Republican workers who were there. All the ballots that could be scanned are scanned, and we have a cast vote record spreadsheet that will be added to what is on the program. We also had ballots that could not be scanned, either through this system or through the overseas ballot system. And the reason is usually ballots torn, get crumpled too much, maybe somebody spilled something on it. So all of those, we had teams of 2 people create a manual cast vote record. And what the cast vote record is a representation of how each voter voted for Congressional District 2 on their ballot. So if I voted for candidate A first and candidate C second and candidate B third, and then I skipped the last 2 positions because we have a write-in position even though we didn't have a declared write-in, then my cast vote record would be A, C, B, blank, or undervote, undervote. And so it extracts that, and that is what the algorithm looks at, that whole combined system. So once we've acquired all of that, we're going to bring it over to the laptop, which has the ranked choice voting software, the utility that applies all the rules for how ballots should be counted. And we are going to have to do a little formatting of the system spreadsheets. And since we're waiting, I'll
Might as well explain
describe it. And I tend to, I'm an administrator, I'm a detail person, I'm a Virgo. So it's going to be way too much detail for most of you.
I'm a Sagittarius, I'm a big picture guy.
I like to say I can't see the forest for the trees, I can't see the forest for the tick that is on the white pine tassel needle on the tree. So definitely it's good match here. So
She yells at me a lot.
we are going to have to format Mr. Golden's results in the 3 system spreadsheets. Because when we set up the ballots, we do all the programming, we do the ballot layout at the state level, we provide all the ballots, they have them centrally printed, we proofread everything that is on the ballot. So we try as much as possible to make sure there are no errors. The programming we do for all the memory sticks, and we send it out to the towns. We test every memory stick before we send it to the towns, and then the towns are required to test it again. When we did our pre-election testing, after the ballots were printed, the programming was set, we discovered, we put everything, we tested both on the DS200s, and we tested on the 850, the high-speed scanner, to make sure that all the results would come through as expected. And we brought them into the utility to make sure it would run the cast vote records. So we would have a very small sample that we would test all the way through. And what we discovered is when we copied or we input Jared Golden's name in the second choice position, it doesn't show on the ballot, which is why we missed it in the proofreading. It is kind of behind the scenes in the programming. We put it as Golden space Jared F. Whereas the first position is Golden, comma, space Jared F. And believe it or not, when you're sorting with Excel, it treats that as 2 different candidates because it's input differently. So when we input the cast vote records, Heidi's going to pull up the file that has 7 cast vote record spreadsheets, and we're going to open each one and filter and make sure we have every name only one way, and where we don't have it one way, we're going to do a find and replace, and we are going to save it as a final spreadsheet, and we will have both versions of that spreadsheet up on the web, hopefully tomorrow, or possibly later today, but hopefully by tomorrow. And so the people who are even more detailed and technically oriented than I am can go and just make sure we know we're going to do it correctly, but I'm sure people will want to look. So.
Computers do what you tell them to do, so.
And go to CDR files. Just paste it right in there. Yeah, so you're all through that stick. So those are your Kava.
An auxiliary.
Okay.
So UOCAV and auxiliary are in. UOCAVA is one of those acronyms that means Uniformed and Overseas Citizen Absentee Voting Act. So, for those of you who don't live by the same acronyms that we do.
I'm sorry? No. You're gonna edit those here. So these are the files from the system. So when you expand from D on. Yeah. D on. Just click that little one. Double click it. There you go. That's the first.
So if we can see, this is our first choice, we can show this.
Yeah.
You have Golden, comma, Jared F. And
Right there.
then here it's Golden space Jared F. And we have the 3-letter designation for the party in front of the 2 party candidates, just a way the system brings it through. We're going to copy and paste that into the find field of the find and replace utility that's in Excel. And we're going to replace it, we're going to copy and paste from the first choice, which is with the comma. And replace all.
Ta-da.
6727 replacements. I think we want to go and do that for the third choice and fourth choice, just to be sure that we don't have any there.
We want to filter those.
Filter.
And,
Yep.
and look at those, so
Yep.
highlight
Yep.
Dion and filter.
I don't know for a fact if Heidi feels this way, but I would feel as I did in the 6th grade in front of the blackboard trying to do a multiplication problem. Moments
Oh,
of
it's
mortal
much
terror.
worse, Matt.
Believe me, this is the privilege of the boss. This is why neither of us are doing this.
That's right.
Like the start of the first grade.
So we have one and only one representation for each of the options: bond, golden, or overvote, Poliquin, and undervote. It's one set, and we'll just filter each of the comments to make sure, the columns, to make sure they're just one set. Again, that's okay. Again, that's okay. Scroll. We're gonna have to do this to the other two system spreadsheets as well. Okay. And then it's all good. Okay.
So now save it as. No, save it as. Click the Windows button. Yeah. You save it as. And save it into C. Oh, I'm sorry, desktop. And CDR files. There you go. Yeah. You close it.
Okay, and we'll do the same thing for the next two. Is anybody still cold in the room? Careful what you wish for, right?
So go backwards to column B. So highlight column B. Make column them all, okay. That's fine, the ones you want to replace. Go
One
all
without
the way,
the
go all the way to the top.
column,
Yeah, and just pick any.
comma, right?
Yep, right
Yep.
there. Fine.
Are there also spaces after the end of the?
And all the filters.
One set of votes there.
Set there. It's called measuring twice and cutting once.
So save it as.
all in?
Yep.
You ready?
We'll have to express vote runoff.
Yep.
So we're gonna, we gotta name it. Let's name it.
Now, if you browse to import. Yes. So now we're importing the files that we just created.
So all the 7 CASFO record spreadsheets, we're going to be importing this into the Express Runoff, which is the utility that runs the
Import.
RCD program.
Come on now. Come on now. Didn't get your titles. Just gotta title it.
You can do the others.
I'm sorry?
The UCAPA.
Yep, all of them are there.
They're all there?
Yep.
So election name,
And
General election.
well, you're gonna have the office title there, so,
general
and then the
election.
date.
And browse to where you want to go. It's back to the desktop. It's there, and the results, and give it. It's good. Generate.
You ready?
Yeah.
Heidi, who won the election?
Done.
I'll go back.
And it's right here.
Yep. Stand back.
So, what we see in round 2 is that Democrat Jared Golden has 50.53% of the vote, and Congressman Poliquin has 49.47% of the vote. So it looks like Jared Golden is the apparent winner of the ranked choice election.
What's the margin? What's the margin?
The margin is, let's see, the margin is 139,231 to 136,326.
So you wanna print some copies of that?
We'll print some copies off. That's the result of the ranked choice tabulation. All right.
Mr. Secretary, would
Yes.
you mind just repeating those results coming in? Can you tell us the numbers?
Yeah,
and
we're
just
gonna
go
print them
over that
off and I'll be able to do it right in front of you.
Sure,
So
you,
we'll
you're
come right-
mic'd up, so you, whenever you're ready, sir.
All right. Missler go. Steve, I think your battery died.
How does the chapter also said, no matter what the results are, they would how do we plug this thing around it? We're still going to move forward. Questioning the Constitution if this is what. Okay. Stand by just what we're doing right now is going to be an ongoing process. It's not over. We know that even this morning, calculation process, but again, the calculation is done. Democrat Jared Golden apparently won the it's still a critical district to as of right now, but because that he's going to push forward.
Wrapping up our live feed.
At this point, we're just going to see
We will continue to try and get the Secretary